Hey, it's Jim Check, and we're back from the weekend fun. It is Monday, February 9th. I'm with me, Ian Burns, our managing editor, all the way out there in the nation capital. Beautiful weekend here in Kelowna, and it's still another beautiful kind of a sunshiny day. The sun came out before March. We don't usually see it till March. And we do have a really big show. Imagine that, we have a really big show. Some of the headlines. Ford tells Carney, pull the trigger on a federal election. The data says Canadian economy bad, no matter the Liberal touts. Alberta's separatist movement growing. Is BC movement starting? Food inflation, the fault of the Conservatives and climate change. While Canadians suffer, crumbs are offered while the elites feast. Alberta, Canada's bright spot. Yet another EV dream fails as Canada pushes on. So now we are going to build Chinese EVs? Consultants still make out like bandits. Freeland on Mar. China sentence Jimmy Lai. Canada opens consulate in Greenland. That's got to be a good spend of Canadian capital there. Drugs for all. Age does not matter. Fed employees crying while Canadians stand in line for food in record numbers. If you don't like the truth, you should quit X, I guess. Digital ID comes with a whopping bill. Canada Post, a money pit. Transparency and accountability, a thing of the past. Well, there's a lot today. Japanese PM gets blowout win. Voter ID in the States. Why is it a debate? And Starmer, get out. All that and a lot more on the really big show. And for everybody that watched the Super Bowl, Seattle Seahawks won. And I guess that's the closest team to us here in the central Okanagan. So that, I guess, would be a hometown team for us, the Seattle Seahawks, for those of you that aren't all freaked out about the Americans. So hometown win for the Seattle Seahawks. It wasn't even much of a... I watched the first Super Bowl I've watched in a long time, actually. Big audience for the Super Bowl. Did you catch any of it?
Nope. I've seen one Super Bowl in my life, and it apparently was the most boring Super Bowl of all time, and it's kind of scarred me for life.
Well, this one isn't much better, so there you go. The game not much in contention the whole way, so no cliffhangers there. I'm sure there's some people that watch the Super Bowl on here as well, though. We got lots that we're going to announce. We're going to stream on Rumble here right away. We couldn't get it going today, but we will be streaming on Rumble tomorrow. That's a promise. And our website is supposed to be up today at some point. I'm not sure. I want to make sure it's mostly ready. So anyway, we did add memberships here as well. So there's a whole bunch of things there. Oh, look, we actually got our first membership. My 2 cents bought a membership. So we do have members now, and you can buy a membership on the really big show. So thank you, My 2 cents, for buying that membership. And look, you get a coffee cup that goes with it. That is going to be part of the swag that we're rolling out as well. So we got some stuff, lots of stuff going on in the really big show. And we do, again, thank you. As we're banging on the door now of 2 million views in the last 30 days. And I'm sure we're going to blow through that in the next little while. And then here's some feedback. We always share a little bit of feedback. Nice one for me. Jim represents Canada who I once respected and understood. And that's what Ian and I are trying to do, is bring back a responsible Canada. You guys crack me up, and we are trying to be a little bit funny all the time too, right? It's a kind of like a news commentary / a little bit of humor in there. Somebody said they love the Fool of the Day. It's too bad we have too many people competing for Fool of the Day. That's the sad part in Canadian politics. There's too many. So we're independent, unapologetic, and we'll call out the Conservatives just as well as the NDP and the Liberals. But obviously, we focus on power. So, and a lot of people just love the show, and great channel, Jim and Ian. And we'll even show you the negative stuff, because that's what we do. But we do have a little thing from the Iron Lady here to share first of all, because it is so relevant. And before we kick off our show, a little clip from the past from the Iron Lady herself.
You want to keep more of the money you earn. I'm afraid that's very selfish. We shall want to tax that away. You want to own shares in your firm? We can't have that. The state has to own your phone. You want to choose where to send your children to school. That's very divisive. You'll send your child where we tell you. Mr. President, the trouble with Labour is that they're just not at home with freedom. Socialists don't like ordinary people choosing, for they might not choose socialism. You want to keep...
That's good. That's good. There you go. I'm sure you remember that.
I remember Maggie. Talk about controversial things. That's what she is. Still a very controversial creature in Britain.
Well, Keir Starmer's trying to unseat her for that role there. So
Keir Starmer is not even close to being enough of a big deal to be controversial. You know, to be truly controversial, you have to do something, which is why Thatcher's controversial. He's just a non-entity. I mean, to call him controversial would be a compliment that he doesn't deserve.
Carney and Ford, the dynamic duo. Looks like Doug Ford is actually telling Mark Carney to call an election. Who would have thought, eh? Who would have thought? The big conservative there, Doug Ford, flip-flop forward, telling Mark Carney, this is an election. That an election is an opportunity to win a clear majority. And that's from a source that Carney says Ford told Carney to pull the trigger.
Amazing, isn't it? You thought, I think we both thought we understood the depths of Doug Ford's hatred for Pierre Poilievre, but apparently it's even deeper. It's even more profound. He must utterly despise, on a sort of, almost like on an animal level, Pierre Poilievre to behave like this, you know?
Yeah, it's actually, especially, like their recent spats too, the Mark Carney, and that he speaks out of both sides of his mouth, old flip-flop Ford for sure. And he is a populist for sure. And a lot of the liberals are very populist as well. But this one surprises me.
It's an interesting article. It's the Globe and Mail. I believe it's that Laura Stone woman. I mean, a lot of the political journalists in Canada are just absolutely terrible, but she does seem sort of quite good, actually, dare I say. But she quotes 3 anonymous sources. Of course, they're anonymous. And they sort of say different things. They go to different extremes. But yeah, one of them said that he said, one of these sources said that Ford told Carney, trigger an election. Another source says that Ford was actually just kind of saying, like, we need a majority because that's good for economic stability, and sort of hinting that it should be Carney that leads that majority rather than his sworn blood enemy, Pierre Poilievre. But it is very interesting. I mean, we're going to talk a lot about the auto industry, I'm sure. I mean, it's on everybody's lips lately, isn't it? But Doug Ford, appropriately given his name, presents himself as like the paladin of the auto industry, doesn't he? The great defender of Canada's auto industry. But it remains to be seen. I think outsiders remain to be persuaded how Doug Ford is going to rescue Ontario's auto industry, because it doesn't look like it's going to happen under the Liberals. I must say that is my suspicion at the moment. It doesn't look like they really have much of a plan. So I would love to know. We've said this before. We would love to know what they chat about when they're sat in Doug Ford's jacuzzi with a couple of cigars and some Crown Royal. But who knows what Ford has been promised.
Well, I mean, Mark Carney has hinted a few times that he hangs out at Doug Ford's cabin there. And what you say about the auto sector, it almost looks like they're intentionally trying to destroy the current auto sector in the hopes of bringing in, we're going to show you later, the Chinese auto sector, which they've said, no, we're not, yes, we are, no, we're not, yes, we are, no, we're not, yes, we are. But I mean, that would take years. And again, people should go look at what's really going on when the Chinese come into a market. But Elections Canada placing orders for 700,000 poll tally sheets and other balloting supplies in anticipation of the next election campaign. I do the show with Renee Merrifield every Tuesday, Beyond the Ballot. It'll be on this Tuesday as well. She called in our predictions for 2026, an election. Cabinet has denied interest in going to the polls for the second time in 2 years, though one MP noted people are getting pretty worked up. I mean, this is kind of normal for this kind of stuff. Election managers In notices, the contractor sector said they required tally sheet, 18,000 voter screens, poll bags, 25,000 wheelchair parking signs, all that kind of stuff. So this really looks like they're gearing up for a spring election. I mean, the poll numbers I saw one this morning from Mario Canseco showing that the lead for the Liberals is quite big, which is surprising. And then that GST thing they did there, that Cabinet's January 26th announcement of that $13.8 billion GST credit now sounds like a pre-campaign bonus. And then remember the fake carbon checks. Yeah, it looks like they're trying to buy the election as well with crumbs again, as they push the Canadians into poverty, into food bank lineups, and then they sprinkle out some crumbs.
But they don't even need to do this. They don't need to bribe the electorate. All they need is Carney can win this, like, if there is going to be an election, which it looks very much that there is. If he wants to win it, all he has to do is phone Donald Trump and say, F off, and then hang up. That's all he has to do. Then Trump will fume.
Let him go, right?
And the Canadian population, for whatever reason, we can try and sort of dissect the Canadian psyche, but for whatever reason, they will then just run into an election booth and throw a Liberal ballot into it as hard as they can. And Mark Carney will win.
Thank you to Hornswoggle for joining a membership. There is some emojis there as well for you. And we're going to do a little video. Ian and I will do a little video here today or tomorrow explaining some of the member benefits if you sign up to be a member to the Really Big Show. We'll get that out here the next while. We're going to get their website out there, start streaming on Rumble. We're on TikTok now. We're starting to get shared. We got shared by lots of massive accounts on the weekend, which is great news to start to see it get out there to bigger, more accounts as well. And we do thank the people that Mark Nixon shared, Ryan Gertson. Those are the couple of accounts that we share a lot of their stuff to. And I can't remember all the accounts that share the stuff, but you can find us on TikTok. Maybe we'll pull up the TikTok screen in a bit here. But Macklin says the loss of Kuzma would mean a recession for Canada. That's a no shite Sherlock kind of, yeah. Like even I could come to that, Tiff. Tiff, how do you still have your job? That's the big question, Tiff, after you told Canadians to go ahead and take out that big mortgage that you wouldn't be raising interest rates in the foreseeable future, and then you raised them in unprecedented fashion, 19-fold. Now many Canadians are facing foreclosures, a whole bunch of things. And I saw a story out of, I think, one of the financial publications here in Canada that says, Canada's home market, ripe for corporate picking. Imagine that. As people lose their homes, the corporations come in and buy homes. Trump stopping corporations from amassing homes in the United States. Mark Carney's company, Brookfield, is one that amasses residential homes.
They and everything else.
There was an interview in the Financial Post. Macklin reiterated that recession is a possible outcome, but they said that they still have a forecast in place for a 1.1% growth in 26 and 1.5% in 27. Still weak by any measure, especially when you compare it to the United States. Absolutely weak. That's the best case. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's their base case, I should say. And without Kuzma, it's not good. And this piece here from the Toronto Sun, which is we've talked about for the last few days, a week, month, year. Canada on recession watch, economy on life support. Even as the Liberals stand up in Parliament and stand in front of the podium and tell you it's the best economy in the G7, fastest growing, all these things, yet offer no proof of anything, a chart that could be actually shown to anybody. Here's a chart, though. Canadian manufacturing recession enters its 32nd month. Again, for those that watch the show on a regular basis, did that comet hit Canada around 2015? We start to see the separation start there in 2015. And it just gets wider and wider and worse and worse and worse. Capital flows out of Canada.
There's also another economic story, which is the Americans' post-COVID bounce back, which is a little bit ironic considering all the wise old wizards in Canada and Europe were telling us that the Americans had handled COVID in a spectacularly stupid way and that they were doomed. Like it was the worst possible way to handle a pandemic. And yet I don't know, economically at least, they seem to have handled it rather well.
I would say their economy, I mean, I look at the leading indicators and the lagging indicators. Jobs numbers are typically lagging indicators. Leading indicators are investment. It's investment. That's your leading indicator. The biggest thing you can look at for a leading indicator is investment into a country. Canada's is money's flowing out. The United States, anything from trillions of dollars to $18 trillion, depending on who you listen to. But the reality is trillions of dollars have flowed into the United States. Manufacturing is on a boom. AI data centers in a boom. Energy in a boom. The same not true in Canada. Those are cold, hard facts. Cold, hard facts. And you can stand there all day and make up numbers, do whatever you want. These are the charts, though. This is the data points. And again, liberals sit next to Mark Carney. Ask him why Brookfield moved to the United States. Ask him why most of investments are in the United States. Because if we can't convince our leader to invest in Canada, how do we convince anybody else?
Couldn't even persuade him to live in Canada until he was offered job of Prime Minister.
And then, of course, CBC doing the work, going after Alberta separatists. Here's the sausage roll king herself, Rosie Barton, selling her soul for a couple of sausage rolls. And, hey, if you're a member, now you can throw the sausage rolls up. They're in the emojis there as well. But she interviews none other than Stéphane Dion there, and they go at Alberta. Let's listen to it. We're going to listen to a little bit of it.
Are you surprised to see this growing separatist movement in Alberta?
But for the reason I mentioned just before, Alberta is the place in the world where the regional government has the more power on natural resources and the more natural resources per capita. And then you come with these policies that we need to do in order to decrease our greenhouse gas emissions to save the planet burning, and Alberta forest burning, by the way. And this is a shock and a difficulty. I think this difficulty should be solved within Canada without putting the existence of our country on the table. It's a mistake to go towards separation. But of course, there is tensions about what is the proper eco-climatic policies that we should apply in the case of Alberta.
The Alberta separatist movement, I'm sure you've seen this, has been speaking to American officials in some capacity, even talking about getting access to money, a credit line from the U.S. What do you make of Americans being involved in that conversation, Stéphane Dion?
I think it's completely irresponsible to have done, because we know that President Trump is somebody very difficult to predict what he will do, but he has clearly expressed his view about annexation of territories in order to get the resource of these territories. We need to remember that Canada is almost alone around the world where the control of natural resources is in the hands of the provinces, of the regional entities, and not the central government or the federal government. In the US, natural resources are federal. That means that if you invite Trump in Alberta, and maybe to take control of Alberta, that means that Albertans, 5 million people, will have to share the dividends of their natural resources with 240 million Americans. It would be a good deal for.
As opposed to giving it all to Quebec, what?
Or just not getting out of the ground in the first place, which is what if I heard him right, that's what he hinted at, where he's on about something to do with the planet burning or some sort of garbage like that, ill-informed nonsense of that kind. If that's what you really think, that means that, and indeed he does, and many other liberals do think that, then that means that Alberta won't be selling natural resources to anyone, to any market, because they'll stay in the ground, as Mark Carney said he would like to see them do.
CBC not pushing back at all. CBC basically carrying the water for the liberals here. I mean, sausage roll. They sell their soul for sausage rolls, imagine, Plus, I think their budget's over $2 billion. Like, they take about $1.5 billion from you, the taxpayer, and then they get some other money. They get some money from Google, and they get some money from, some of the ads they run, and they get money all over. But this is what we get. This is what they manage to put out for $2 billion a year. This kind of stuff. This is what they manage. Maybe they should offer a contract to Ian and I. We'll cut their budget to a third and we'll deliver better news than the CBC has in the past, I'd say 5 to 10 years. But the poll shows that a comfortable majority of Albertans want to stay in Canada, but would leave if separatists won. And that's a major poll, so it's turned its sights on Alberta separatism, claiming that a comfortable majority, 65% of people in the province would vote against independence if a referendum were held. But the poll also found that 29% of Albertans would vote to leave, while 54% disapprove of the Premier Daniel Smith's handling of separatism. A large proportion of anti-independence voters, 74%, said they would leave Alberta and move elsewhere in Canada, province back separation. These things have a way of playing out. According to poly markets, this looks like it's going to happen in 2027 if you are believing in what's before 2027, actually, in poly markets right now, if you look at it.
Well, I would also say, just again, as I often say, that I often remind people that I am indeed a time traveler. I've come from the future, Canada's future, which is called Britain. And usually that's when I'm talking about economic failure and all the rest of that sort of energy failures and things like that. But it also applies to referenda. And I've got to remind people, you look at that and you see 29% and you think, all right, it's like, whew, we're safe, guys. That's what Brexit was polling once upon a time. And it changed so rapidly. Once the campaign started, it just flipped and it changed. And then all of a sudden, as tends to happen with these things, it was close to 50-50 before you knew it. And I would just warn people who are maybe getting a bit complacent about this and who think that it could never happen because these polls look quite good if you want Alberta to stay. Just remember that. Remember what happened. Because I think it can really surprise you. And there's also something that everybody in politics knows, that when you do polls like this and you say, if a referendum were held today, or if an election were held today, a referendum isn't going to be held today. People aren't thinking about it. It's not even remotely on their mind. They've got their own stuff to do. That's why we have campaigns, because that's when we can actually speak to the public and we can try and persuade them one way or another. And they change their positions, and that will happen. I can guarantee it. So, don't be too cocky, I would say, to people in favor of Alberta staying in Canada. Like, you need to be very, very smart about this and take it very seriously.
Well, I mean, there's some movement there in BC as well. There's a Cascadia movement that has roots in the past, but the Canadian Press News has published an article asking whether BC separatism is likely with a focus on Cascadia movement, bringing the province into a union with U.S. states in the Pacific Northwest. But the story also looks at another group, the BC Prosperity Project, and I've seen that one, which has taken root on Vancouver Island. Organizer Peter Lataroux has warned that if Alberta and Saskatchewan leave Canada, it will only be it will be the only Western province left to feed Ottawa and pay for Quebec. I get everybody gets the message on the paying for Quebec thing. That's odd they would bring Stéphane Dion on there to say that the Americans are going to take the money that's rightfully Quebec's. I mean, you might as well just say that, right? How dare you take money that's already rightfully Quebec's? Absolutely crazy.
Which is going to be spent in a socially just way, so therefore it's fine.
Food inflation. Here's another committee hearing. Let's listen in this on the response on what's causing food inflation. Let's listen to this.
Minister, why do you think food cost inflation is twice the level that it is in the United States?
Well, I think we've covered this question in the House quite a bit, and we've got a number of conflating situations in Canada, including, as you would note, the tariffs that we've experiencing as a country. But, you can yourself, I think you're from the western part of this country, you yourself can speak to
Minister,
some of the cattle farmers who are actually feeling quite despondent.
How do you think tariffs are impacting food inflation?
Look, there are a number of impacting...
Like which tariffs specifically?
The focus here is on the things that we can control, as I said in my speech. And
But
there is
I'm asking
no
about
doubt
food
that Canadians
inflation
are feeling the impact of food inflation. But I will tell you what it's not, if this is where you're going. It is not, and as many economists have shown,
You're
it
the
is
minister.
not
I'm
related.
not asking what it's not. I'm asking what it is. Why is it twice the United States?
Well, food inflation in Canada is directly related to the number of foods that we must import and to the growing challenges of climate change.
How much did she hate that, by the way?
They don't like answering questions. They do not like answering questions. We're going to show
They
you
don't
later
like
how
having
much
their
they don't.
authority doubted as well. That's another thing.
We're going to show you how much they hate it later when they want. No, you have to forward your questions. They want the cameras out too as well, which is absolutely crazy. The less transparency and accountability is the Liberal way.
No. So sorry, just to quickly go back to what I was saying, just so you know, I wasn't full of fibs and nonsense. I've just, as she was talking there, that minister, I've gone and looked at the historic polls for Brexit and Remain in the UK. So 1 year before the referendum, we could reasonably suppose that maybe we're about a year away from an Alberta separation referendum. 1 year before Brexit, 66% Remain, 22% Leave. And that's pretty standard poll. So just to really hammer that down, if there's anybody with any power watching this and thinks that this is going to be a breeze, don't be stupid. Take it seriously.
Here's a little bit on the people that are having a tough time adjusting to climate activism and climate religion is done. It's over. Globalism is done. Just that in Canada, it'll have a longer shelf life because our government continues to push the same agenda, but most of the other world has moved on. But listen to this here, this little clip here.
Right, is what was the practical import of having many, 40% of the climate models being too sensitive? And your statement, Andy, that it was well known in the scientific community, indeed, true. But what matters is not the knowledge in the scientific community. What matters is the knowledge among the public, in particular, the decision makers. The presence of hot models allowed people to exaggerate the impacts, alleged impacts or possible impacts of greenhouse gases. The scientific community failed people like you, Andy, and people even more credentialed than you, did not stand up and say, no, that's not correct. The climate crisis was exaggerated, with the consequence that society ran down a rabbit hole of rapid decarbonization, deindustrialization of countries, rapid increases in electricity prices and degradation of the grid, scaring the bejesus out of young people about an impending climate catastrophe, and retarding the energy access and hence economic growth of more than half of the world. So yes, scientific honesty has consequences, Andy, and the climate community has failed to accurately represent the situation. The DOE report attempts to right that injustice.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's bullshit. Sorry. I said I wasn't
Andy,
I wasn't
you know, you're a tenured
I was not going
professor
to
at one of the
profanity.
world's better universities. You should not be using the words like felony or bullshit.
Well, I'm sorry, but it is what it is.
Men have a tough time adjusting because they built their whole models around this. They built their life out of it. They built their reputation on it. And they also built, a lot of them, their financial wealth on this, you know, investing in all this green technologies, including Brookfield Technologies. If you go to their website and read their investor plan, one of the largest investors in green technology and carbon capture.
Yeah. That guy, though, I mean, he's as sober as a judge, that fella. He's hardly some sort of lunatic on the fringes or whatever. As it says in that tweet, he worked for Barack Obama. You know, he was a part of the Obama administration, I believe, as the science advisor or something like that. That bloke is not on the periphery of anything. He's very much down the middle, ordinary geezer. But if if you don't want to just take his word for it, like I've said a million times, read the IPCC report. It's all there. It's all there. Like, that is the perfect tool. If you want to push back against the nonsense on climate change, the best thing you can do is read the most respected documents or research on climate change, which is the IPCC reports. Just read them. They're there to read. Just Google it. It's right there. But yeah, I mean, all he's doing is summarizing that. And there are other people who do that and have made quite a big name for themselves, like Bjorn Lomborg. He also just does that. He just summarizes, well, and some other studies, but I mean, he focuses on the IPCC. Just go straight to the horse's mouth. Go straight to the source. Read those reports, or just read the summaries, or put it into ChatGPT or something and say, summarize the latest IPCC report. And it will tell you that the nonsense that we were fed, the endless lies and propaganda that we were fed, that, you know, strange, out-of-date people like Elizabeth May continue to try and push on us. It proves that all of that was nonsense. Climate change is not a world-ending problem. It really isn't. I mean, it's as simple as that. If you still doubt, read the reports or ask Bill Gates, for example. He'll tell you.
And look what it's done to the economies of England, Germany. I mean, in Germany is losing a Mercedes factory to Poland because of the energy costs. England is just I mean, what he said in there, that they've deindustrialized and made their electricity. Ian was living in England just recently, and they had to choose which hours they could have heat in their home. Is this what we want for Canada? We're going down the same path. Look to the future. Look to England. Is this what we want?
But also look at Canada's, we looked at that chart, didn't we? Canada's per capita electricity generation.
Yeah.
You know, growth or decline over the last 10 years. We're going very, very much in the wrong direction. And that is really frightening. We've come from an excellent spot, much better than the British, but still, we can't let that continue. We can't let that trend continue.
Meanwhile, food inflation here in Canada continues to be the highest in the G7, almost double that of the Americans. And this is what we get. More than 12 million Canadians are getting a couple of $100. What does a couple of $100 do at the end of the day for a year? It won't even buy you a couple.
$12.8 billion, I think, to the deficit, isn't it? That's what it does at the end of the day. It doesn't help individuals. It adds to the deficit.
Which it drives inflation. 13.6 billion we just talked about in the earlier story. That's what it's going to cost to buy a few votes. This is not a serious government. Not a serious government. And if you have people, imagine people, you drive them into poverty, into food bank lineups, and then you can control them because then you can hand out crumbs. People that don't need crumbs are harder to win over. And that's what we should have, a healthy democracy where people aren't standing in food bank lineups. And in the same time, this supply management, and the Conservatives are guilty of this as well. In November of 2025, dairy farmers dumped almost 5% of their milk. That's roughly 10 million liters of milk, about $18 million. We have some of the highest dairy costs, some of the highest eggs, poultry costs because of supply management. Something that the Conservatives don't want to tackle either. These cartels in Canada, we're going to talk about more cartels, oligopolies, all these kind of different things, these lobby groups and all that. Canadians go hungry. These are facts. Record lineups at food banks, and we're dumping food down the drain, dumping it into the drain that your tax dollars paid for. So there was energy that was put into that milk. The milk was created. The cows were fed. The cows were in pasture. All kinds of stuff. All kinds of energy went into that, and it was just dumped into the drain. Just dumped into the drain because of supply management.
You can attack it from almost any angle that you want. You can attack it from an animal rights angle. If you're looking for that kind of thing, because why have these cows had to suffer for that, for nothing, just for politics? But you know, we've had a good cheeky few swipes at the Tories, and particularly Poilievre when it comes to this. But I would be fairly confident, and I've heard sort of similar behind the scenes, as it were. I'd be fairly confident that Poilievre personally is no friend of supply management. Because when we were talking about him the last time, I was saying he seems like he's a bit of an intellectual of some kind. And if he is an intellectual, as I suspect he is, he will have to have some kind of a consistent worldview. And his worldview is very much about freedom, isn't it? Free markets, free individuals, rights for individuals, freedom of speech. That's his main, that's how he sort of sells his political brand. So it is a guarantee, I would say, that he finds this distasteful. So then the question is, why is he keeping it? Why is he keeping that secret? Why is he not even keeping it a secret? Why is he saying the opposite of what I suspect he actually believes? I mean, I think we know the answer to that. It's because he wants to win the ridings that are on offer, that he thinks are on offer, at least in Quebec, because he thinks that's his only way to power. But I mean, it's just something to think about, isn't it? It is fundamentally dishonest, isn't it? And that is, a lot of people try and kind of run cover for Poilievre then, and they say, oh, you got to be realistic, guys. But it's kind of like, his brand, if it's anything, is like no BS, maximum freedom for everyone. I'm not going to do things like the Laurentian elite. I'm going to do it the Western way, which is honest and gritty. But that's not what he's doing here. And I would just say, the last thing I'd say about this, it's a shame that he's not scrutinized more about it, or that the Tories in general aren't scrutinized more about it. This is just like a dead issue. This has been swept under the carpet by everybody except this man. And that's one of the reasons that everybody, at least in the Liberal Party, despises him.
I just want to remind everyone, this is key. Listen to this very closely. There's 3 things that were pointed out by the Trade Commission there from the Americans that are actually detrimental to Canadians as well. The dairy cartel, the supply management, that hurts the consumer in Canada. It actually hurts the consumer in Canada and drives food inflation. Number 2, the Online News Act. It censors media outlets like us. We want it removed. We've done more stories on this than all the media outlets in Canada combined. We are an accredited news organization. We've done more on this than all of them combined. It censors media. It does not let us put our news on Facebook or Instagram. At the same time, the Liberals spend millions of dollars advertising their propaganda on Facebook and Instagram because they say it's too important of a platform to ignore. That's where Canadians get its news. Listen to that contradiction in itself right there. And the other one is banking. They want more access to banking. And we're going to talk about that later on that oligopoly as well. Those 3 things hurt you, the consumer, and benefit just the few. Again, the policies that benefit the few at the expense of the many. That is the MO for this government. Policies that benefit the few at the expense of the many. That's dairy, the supply management. The food professor, one of the more honest guys about food inflation out there, and the Liberals not owning up to it at all. I heard Mark Carney in Parliament there say it was the Conservatives that drove food inflation because of their obstruction. What can they obstruct? What literally can they obstruct other than making noise? And he blamed it on a weak dollar. The dollar's actually gone up because Trump wants a weak dollar. It's just, they don't even care. They just throw stuff out there. The government-funded media just runs it. It's just nonsense, just utter nonsense. And look at this. Meanwhile, this is the fact as well, record food bank usage across Canada, record food bank usage, and many of them young people. Here's Carney's flight records here. And Peter Menzies points this out. How do you spend $22,000 on catering on a flight from Ottawa to Washington? 90 minutes. How do you spend $22,000? And here's some of the flight costs. They spend like drunken sailors. Remember the outrage over Stephen Harper's glass of orange juice? I think it was $12 or $16. Look at this. And we remember the amounts that Trudeau spent. But look at this. This continues. And he's been jet setting everywhere. Paris, $39,000. London, $36,000. Washington, $48,000. Holy See, $133,000. The Hague, $141,000. Brussels, $73,000. And then these are just the costs for the in-flight catering. What are they eating on these planes? You go on a plane and you get some nuts and maybe a bag of pretzels or something. Like to Paris, $7,600. Like No press conferences on those planes. Like the press is on those planes. Is this just like sausage rolls? There's piles and piles of sausage rolls in the back. To London, 52,000. You can see the numbers yourself. Like it's absolutely crazy.
That one, when he went to see the Pope as well, can't help but think that was a bit sort of a personal thing, that he fancied just meeting the new Pope, who everyone was interested in. To spend that much, $133,000 on
well, I mean, it is security, admin fees, and all that other stuff too. But I mean, it's just ridiculous, right? It's absolutely atrocious. Well, Canadians are standing in line at food banks. Canadians stand in line at food banks. And we just spent like there's no tomorrow. And here's another one, just a comparison of companies. So look at this. So this is Canada versus the United States. I want you to see this chart here. On the left side is American companies, the top companies. They're in the trillions. NVIDIA, maker of product, maker of the future, actually. NVIDIA, the chips that everybody needs. Apple, everybody's got an apple in their paw. Alphabet, basically owns the internet. YouTube, you're watching this because of Alphabet. Microsoft, I've never been a big fan of Microsoft, but Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Broadcom, Tesla, the future again, Berkshire Hathaway, the only financial company on there so far, and Walmart. These are all, mostly other than Berkshire, companies that produce or provide a major service throughout the world. And in Canada, look at this. Royal Bank, Toronto Dominion, and the one big company here in Canada, Shopify, Enbridge, energy company, Bank of Montreal, Brookfield, and here's another one, Agnico Eagle. These used to be all the resource companies, Scotiabank, Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce. Why are all the banks at the top here? The banks are basically an oligopoly here in Canada. You pay way too much. Record profits again this year for the banks here in Canada. And that's one thing the Americans are pushing against too. They want access to this market. They say, oh, you can get access. But it's like going through a prickly thorn bush to get anywhere in Canada here. And so they haven't gone after the consumer market. They've gone after some of the corporate stuff here in Canada, but it's like a prickly thorn bush. You can't get at it, and it's just too many roadblocks. And the big six, RBC TD, hit around $20 billion, and this is your money. Like, I mean, you look at mortgage rates in Canada, they just won't let you in. So I'm going to tell you right now, the banks don't do anything for you. Open a Wealthsimple account. No transactional fees. You shouldn't be paying any transactional fees. Get out right now. We're going to put the link up there. If you can put that link up there at the bottom here, put that link in there. No transactional fees. You can open a TFSA. You can open RSPs. You can open FSA. You can have a checking account. And I think they have credit cards now. You can buy gold. You can buy Bitcoin. All at zero transactional fees. Now put the link here, the shared link here. Oh, okay. And if you use that link, you get $25 when you open an account. Get out of the Canadian banks. Get out of them. Why are you paying monthly fees?
They should be very grateful for this free advertising, shouldn't they?
Well, I mean, especially young people. Like, this is a stock thing. Instead of buying that $10 coffee at some fancy coffee place, open a Wealthsimple account. Get your kids to do it. Open a Wealthsimple account and buy $10 worth of stock, because you can buy fractional shares in Wealthsimple at no transactional cost. So you can buy $10 worth of Tesla, $10 worth of any one of those companies I named, NVIDIA, Apple, Alphabet, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Broadcom. You can buy $10 worth of that stock. You sell it in a couple days, and you're going to get the difference. On the other side of the corner, and the companies on the right side there, CIBC, for example, which I have an account there, it's I think it's a $7 or $8 in and out fee. So if I bought $10 worth of stock, I'd pay almost $10 to do the transaction. And if I sell it, I have to pay another $10. So the stock has to triple for me to get my money back if I'm just doing $10. And just think about it, if you're teaching kids, instead of wasting your money on a drink, a fancy drink or alcohol, whatever it is, buy a stock instead, and you do that every time, you can amass a fortune by the time you're older, just by investing in the stock market. And I tell you, all those companies on the left side there, those are the future right now, and then where the future is going. These ones on the right here, they're taking advantage of Canadians. How are they still charging transactional fees and stuff like that when other people can do it for nothing. Same
Well, they
thing goes
charge
for
you
our
just
cell
to have an
phone companies.
account.
Same thing goes for our cell phone companies here in Canada. We are way overcharged, way overcharged. Open the market up. There you go. There's your tip of the day. 25 bucks. Use that link. Some people have already done it. Use that link. Open an account. I've helped so many people get, especially young people. It is absolutely amazing for young people. And it teaches them to all of a sudden start thinking about buying stock instead of wasting money on things they don't need. So when they're sitting there in a restaurant, they're just like, oh, I should get that fancy dessert. You know what? I'm going to buy $10 worth of NVIDIA instead. Probably a better bet, right? I'm going to buy, I think I'll have another beer. Oh, no, for 10 bucks, I can buy $10 worth of Apple.
Food inflation is that bad, isn't it? $10 gets you part of an apple.
That beer's not going to be good for you. Even if Apple loses half its value, it's still better than that beer that you were going to buy.
I would say another thing, though, about looking at this, looking at the US-Canada comparison there, is it any wonder that Canada has a productivity problem? Just look at those companies. They're all basically extractive, aren't they? They're kind of like
take from you.
cartelized systems, except for one, Shopify. That's really the only one.
Well,
and the
Shopify
CEO is constantly complaining about Canada. He constantly seems like he's about to snap and just leave and go to America. So, I mean, is there any wonder? So much of the Canadian economy is basically just like squatters' rights. These companies, these cartels just want the right to squat on you and extract money from you.
Well, Enbridge and Agnico Eagle and I think Canadian Natural Resources they used to be all the resource companies, but we've suppressed our natural resources here in Canada, absolutely suppressed them. And somebody asked me if I'm a licensed advisor. What does that have to do with anything? I'm just telling you to switch your banking so you don't have to pay any fees. I'm not telling you to buy stock. There, you can buy whatever stock you want. You can buy these stupid banks if you want. Do what you want. Do what you want. Do what you want. And then our resource sector is Canada's wealth. Anyway, somebody said they're paying 20 bucks a month for the Royal Bank. Why? You can get it free. Why are you paying 20 bucks? You don't need to be much of a financial advisor for that. 0 versus 20 bucks a month. 0 versus 20 bucks a month. Tough choice. Alberta booming in their housing industry. Let's listen to this here.
Calgary is in a home construction boom, and it's helped create a lot of options for where people can live.
We had 28,000 occupancies last year. In a normal year, we'd have 13 to 14,000. We're talking over double in 1 year.
It's the third straight year Calgary has led the country in housing starts.
Sometimes affordability drives what they can actually purchase, right? So we have to keep that in mind. But generally what we've been seeing is that sales are slower almost across all property types.
But it's the high-density housing seeing the biggest impact.
Apartment and row-style units, and those segments of the market are actually seeing a little bit more supply than demand at the moment. So that's causing some downward pressure on pricing in the resale market.
Calgary is in a home construction boom, and it's helped create a lot of options for where people can live.
We had 28,000 occupancies last year. In a normal year, we'd have 13 to 14,000. We're talking over double in 1 year.
It's the third straight year.
That's good. So, I mean, it's much better in Alberta. I mean, obviously they got lots of resources there. And I just want to, Chloe Joe said there that maybe someone was just asking. Maybe I overreacted on the thing there, on the Wealthsimple. But my wife used to work at one of the big 6 banks for like 10, 15 years. She was a high-level account manager. And even when she worked there, we couldn't get free banking. We actually went to President's Choice, which is their online version of it now. I think it's called Simply now. And they have those transactional fees too. So there is other ones out there. I just like Wealthsimple better because you can buy gold, you can buy Bitcoin, you can buy stock and all that stuff, which is missing in the Simply one, right? So So there's other, and somebody said Kuhu or something like that. So there are other ones. But look, but you shouldn't be paying banking fees anymore. You should figure it out. Like there's options out there. Just Wealthsimple, again, offers the ability for young people especially to buy fractional shares, which is not available at most places. Fractional shares is like absolutely amazing. Fractional shares. Here's our EV plans here in Canada. EV. Stellantis, look at this. They sold their stakes in the Windsor battery plant for, that's not a misprint, $100. $100 after a $980 million investment. $100. That's basically to do the document, right? That's just because you have to have some type of, you have to have a value to exchange the document. You can't just do it for free, like, hey, like get out $1, $100 or whatever it is. So there you go. This is why the American automakers have been saying for a long time, kill the EV mandate, kill the EV mandate. Ford had massive billions in write-offs. GM had billions in write-offs. Stellantis and billions in write-offs. Writing's on the wall, except the liberals can't see it or can't read. It's been told to them over and over and over again. And this is another example of how it doesn't work. $52 billion Chrystia Freeland oversaw in investment into EVs and battery plants and all that kind of stuff. And then she jetted off to Ukraine, and she's the economic advisor there after doing a bang-up job here in Canada. And she's going to oversee the tens of billions that Canada has given to Ukraine, which she was part of that decision-making as well.
Melanie Jolie celebrated this as well, by the way. She's happy about this. Because LG's come in, the South Koreans, and she celebrated it, saying, almost sounding like a spurned lover, kind of saying, well, you know, if he doesn't want to be with me, then I'll just have an excellent time with somebody who does. Even though that doesn't really make a lot of economic sense, but welcome to Canada.
Wow, thank you for Valiant Goats. Sent 5 gift memberships. That's, wow, amazing. Mark Carney says that I'm getting whiplash from this one. I am getting absolute whiplash from this one. They went there, touted it as a big free trade deal, got some grief from America, and then said, no, it's just 49,000 cars. Everybody pump the brakes. There's no free trade deal. There's none of that stuff. We're not going to build cars. It's 49,000 cars. And then some of the Liberal MPs came and said, oh, no, we're going to build cars. And then they kiboshed it again. Now, the choices we make now will shape the Canadian auto industry for decades to come. And we're going to build the cars of the future. And then the Financial Post puts this out. Canada eyes joint venture to build Chinese EV for global export. You need a bingo card for this one. I have no idea.
What does that mean? I mean, you don't have to be an expert in the global car market to know that there isn't really much intercontinental car trade. It doesn't really happen. If you're in Asia and you want to buy a car, it will almost certainly be built in Asia, in Japan or China. If you want to buy a car in Europe, it will be built in Germany or France or Britain. If you want to buy a car in North America, it'll be built in Canada, Mexico, or the United States. There isn't much overseas trade, except cars where you can mark them up massively, like Italian sports cars and things like that. And obviously not very many of those are sold. These are the cheapest cars in the world, aren't they? That's what they're famous for. Why would you export Chinese EVs on a massive tanker? Like, what's the margin there? Like, this makes no sense to me whatsoever. Why would the Chinese do that when they could build it so much cheaper in China and also be closer to a lot of markets, like in Asia, for example? This makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever.
We are in Brookfield again, connected. Brookfield owns part of Clarios there, which is the battery maker there in China. I mean, these are the things that the media needs to start asking. They don't let us have access, and the media that does have access doesn't seem to think this question is important enough. All these decisions that are being made, 500,000 jobs on the line in Ontario, 500,000 good-paying manufacturing jobs on the line in Ontario, and Mark Carney making decisions for this, and Clarios connected to Brookfield, and Brookfield connected to Mark Carney. Again, he didn't sell his shares, and yet the media, oddly silent on these questions, oddly silent on these obvious questions. And also, Mark Carney was the guy doing the deal to borrow almost over $250 million from President Xi, almost himself, from the Bank of China, to float his. There's the Canadian mortgage. What's going on? To float his real estate investments in China, which are doing really poorly. China real estate doing very poorly. Yet no questions being asked.
And also no questions like, let's cut to the chase, the reality of Canada's auto industry. The reason Canada has an auto industry, as Melanie Joly herself said, I think on Friday, she said something along the lines of 75% of all the cars made in Ontario last year were Japanese. They were either Toyota or Honda, I believe she said. Why on earth, ask yourself this question, why is a Japanese company making so many cars in Canada? Why are they doing that? To sell to the United States. That's it. There's no sort of secret, complicated answer to that. It's because they see Canada as a way into the US, to the US market. And for whatever reason, partly, as is often the case with these Japanese companies and other car companies, it'll partly be because the subsidy arrangement is so sweet as to make sense for them to do that. So they say, okay, well, the margin's better. We'll do it in Canada. And there's frictionless trade between Canada and the United States. Bob's your uncle then. We'll make the cars in Canada at a very nice margin, and then we'll sell them into the United States. It doesn't make sense to look at it any other way. It doesn't make sense to look at Canada as like an independent market. Like Canada as a market for cars is so trivial as to not even, nobody thinks about that. It's too trivial. It's too small. It doesn't even enter into the conversation. So why are people thinking about this possibility where we won't have free trade with the US? Or at least maybe we have free trade, but not for cars. And certainly not for Chinese cars. What is this about? What's the plan? Are we going to sell them to Europe? Europe's massively over capacity when it comes to car production. They already fight among themselves over who can produce cars. They're not going to buy them. Well, Africa. I mean, Africa, maybe next century, but it's not much of a consumer market right now. So where are these going to be sold? None of this makes any sense. I can't emphasize enough how senseless this is. It's just, and nobody seems interested. You're on about people not asking questions. Why is nobody asking that question? I mean, the more likely thing, which is what they may be pushing for, is that Canada can give all the assembly jobs, you know, what we consider to be an auto industry, to America, and in exchange make batteries and sell them into the US market or something like that. But, you know, nobody spelled it out that clearly.
Thanks to Joe, bought a membership. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that as well. And also to Gary. Thank you for doing that as well. It just doesn't make any sense why we're not asking those questions. It just doesn't make any sense why we're not asking those questions. And here's another question. I do want to point out, though, almost 800 right now watching live. That'll be a record for us. And again, if you can share this out to as many places as possible, we really appreciate it as this show grows, and you know, especially the people that come every day and stick around for the whole thing. This is independent media, unapologetic, and we're trying to get to the truth. You're going to hear stuff here that you're not going to get from mainstream media. I guarantee it. And Ian and I have lots of experience in what we do, and share that here with you. And it's and we actually interact with you, and we welcome your comments. We won't shut you down like some of the other outlets do. Here's one here, Chrystia Freeland. So many unanswered questions. She was number 2 in charge in the Freedom Convoy. Some of her notes there that are pretty damning when she said, label them as terrorists. Some of the things that happened, and Mark Carney advised to freeze their bank accounts. They did freeze bank accounts. They did trample on their rights, and they did abuse power and privilege by invoking the Emergencies Act. And that's 2 courts that have now said that. And they literally trampled on them with horses. And instead of doing an interview with the government broadcasters, government-sponsored broadcasters, she goes on Bill Maher. She goes on Bill Maher No, CBC, you know they have the number. They know they have the number because she used to leak everything to them. Nothing. Nobody's asked the question in mainstream media of the ones that were there, Anita Anand, Jolie, Freeland, Carney, LeBlanc, Miller, all of them there when the Freedom Convoy, when they abused power and privilege. Nobody's asked the questions of, are they going to apologize to Canadians for abusing power and privilege in the Freedom Convoy? But she goes on Bill Maher and talks about human rights and democracy. Let's listen in on this here. And it talks about China too.
Because a world in which we need to start relying on China, this is not a world where human rights matter.
Yeah.
This is not a world where democracy matters. And like, I feel kind of weird saying this, not being an American, but like, America's really great. And I think Winston Churchill was right when he said, America does the right thing after trying everything else first. So could you please like finish trying the other stuff and start doing the right thing?
It sounds like Winston Churchill said that about the Liberal Party of Canada, if anything. How long have they been doing the wrong thing? And in the effort, a desperate effort to avoid doing the right thing, at least economically.
Yeah, let's look at the charts of what's the last 10 years. Let's pull them up. Something happened in 2015. Like you said, a comet hit us, or what happened? And yet, no accountability. Bill Maher didn't even ask the question. I mean, he knows it as well, because they've all poked fun at this Freedom Convoy thing. Joe Rogan as well. Nothing. No accountability. Zero accountability. Where's the media in Canada that gets access? Because we don't get access. Where's CTV asking the question? They've had them on. And this is, how long is this now? It's got to be going on to a month since the appeal court came out with that decision. We've had John Carpay on and said they likely don't even have grounds for appeal to the Supreme Court. So why isn't the question being asked? Why isn't it being asked?
It's just, I mean, I'm sure Chrystia Freeland wouldn't look at it this way, or any Liberals, but this is yet another humiliation of Canada, because she was brought on there not because she was the former Deputy PM of Canada and all the rest of the job titles that Bill Maher listed. She was brought on there because it was about America, as it always is. Americans don't care about Canada. It was about America. And this little speech that she gave here, which was it was basically, she was on there as like someone not from America who was anti-Trump and was talking about bringing America back to its roots or something like that. That's why Bill Maher wanted her there. So, I mean, he didn't ask her about any of that stuff. And the closest thing that we got to seeing her sort of squirm or be questioned in any way was when Bill Maher started talking about the most basic, very sort of, very kind and gently talking about sex relations, like, male and female. That male and female do indeed exist, basically. That's what he said. And didn't press her on it or anything like that. Didn't say, oh, hold on, weren't you part of a government that was like absolutely elbows deep in this sort of nonsense? It wasn't the Prime Minister that you served basically a fringe lunatic on this question. None of that. She just got to say, actually, I think it's good that girls have their own spaces. But even that, would have been nice to have heard that 5 or 6 years ago, wouldn't it, Chrystia? But obviously that was too much for you.
Welcome, Carla, to membership as well. Thank you for that. Yeah, it blew me away, the non-accountability, and that she even had the gall go on there, even after not going on any Canadian media. I mean, help us make this show so big they can't ignore, so that they have to come on here, because we will not give them a pass like they get from the government-corrupted media. We will not give them a pass. And then she did make one point there on China. Why would we do business with China who does not believe in democracy? And here's an example. Jimmy Lai, a 78-year-old man convicted by the Chinese Communist Party for standing up for freedom and democracy. This is from the British government, one of the MPs. Listen to what they have to say. He's got sentenced to prison for 20 years, basically a life sentence.
In the early hours of this morning, Jimmy Lai was convicted following a shameful show trial under the repressive national security law imposed on Hong Kong in breach of the Sino-British Joint Declaration. Jimmy Lai's imprisonment, trial and conviction mark a new low in the Chinese Communist Party's shameful attempts to extinguish freedom, democracy and the rule of law in Hong Kong. It is yet another serious violation of the joint Sino-British Declaration. The scenes of Jimmy, A 78-year-old man being paraded around in chains are disturbing, but his defiance stands as a source of hope for those who still believe in freedom, democracy, and human rights. In the early hours...
There. And these are the people that we want to welcome into Canada and share security with as well. And have already interfered in an election, and Mark Carney was asked, why does it look like the Chinese want you to win the election? And the response was, I don't know. Let's move on. I think I got that almost word for word, didn't I? I don't know. Let's move on.
I'd say this video that we just saw here, I mean, it's as good as any video really, but that's an old video from an opposition MP. She's in the Conservative Party. She's not in power of any kind. And she's also talking about his conviction. He's now been sentenced to 20 years imprisonment. That's the news story from today. But when when you were talking about that, and when I was listening to Priti Patel talk there, it just made me. I was reminded of something that Melanie Joly said, which is that the Chinese are a more predictable. I think she might even have said reliable, but she said she definitely said a more predictable partner than the United States. Okay, Melanie Joly, she's not the sharpest knife in the cutlery drawer, is she? And we do have a bit of fun with her, Fool of the Day awards included, all the rest of it. But just think about that for a second, what she said. They're more predictable, and she was putting that forward as a virtue. Given Jimmy Lai 20 years in prison for nothing, for absolutely nothing at all, because the Chinese are oath breakers. They broke their agreement with the British. They promised that they would keep Hong Kong partly free for 50 years, I believe, after the handover. That didn't happen. They broke their promise. They broke their pledge. Just another example of the flagrant violation of law, international law, anything, agreements, promises, whatever it is that the Chinese Communist Party is well known for. But they said they weren't going to do anything like this. They've done it. 20 years in jail. It was predictable. Everybody predicted this, basically. Everybody predicted that they would do this. It was predictable that they were going to crush Hong Kong. It's predictable that they would enslave people in Western China and all. Like, everything that they do is predictable. But listen to Melanie Joly saying that. More predictable than the United States, and this is a good thing. How sinister does that sound now when you think about it in this context? What an extraordinarily, and I'm going to use an old-fashioned word here, what an evil thing to say. That is pure evil. What is wrong with this government, morally speaking? What is wrong with them? China's more predictable. Yeah, they are predictable. They do things like this. They kill old men because they don't like their politics, because they had the audacity to run a media company that didn't slavishly obey the Chinese Communist Party. Now he's going to go in jail and die. This old fella he's got a son. I think he actually has grandkids as well. Yeah, that is predictable. Melanie Joly, you can, like she said it more than once, consult YouTube, type it into YouTube and listen to her say this. What an evil thing to say. I just, she's often Fool of the Day, but that's something worse in light of this. That's beyond being a fool.
We haven't seen a reaction yet from the Liberals on this sentencing. And thank you, Claudia, for becoming a member. We appreciate that a lot, immensely. Again, make this channel so big they can't ignore it so that we can get more information out to more Canadians, especially if there's an election coming. One more piece on this China thing here. Let's listen to this again from the UK.
Built literal supply lines, railway lines that go to drone factories in Russia. Open source suggests 60% of the Russian effort is being covertly bankrolled by China.
Well, I think things have changed.
It's absolutely useful for China to keep the West occupied in Ukraine. It's also quite useful for China to keep Russia occupied in Ukraine.
It's eyes wide open.
China didn't instigate Russia's attack on Ukraine, but what it's done is enable its continuation.
Well, I think things have changed.
It suits China to have this war ongoing.
It's eyes wide open.
It would be very happy to see Europe.
All right, that was somebody put together a montage there. I don't know, I got put in there, but China is a bad actor. I mean, here on one hand, Canada is giving billions of dollars to Ukraine to fight the wrongful invasion of Russia. On the other hand, Russia and China are have a no-holds-barred relationship. And then we're funding China, which China funds Russia. And then we also buy Russian oil. Like, you can't even make this stuff up.
Well, the Chinese are the principal customer of Russian hydrocarbons. I can't remember what it was. Last I read, something like 65, 70%. They buy 95%, I think. Basically, to all intents and purposes, all Iranian oil is purchased by the Chinese. And yeah, they give weapons, like anything they want, they give to the Russians so that they can prosecute their war in Ukraine, which we're told is the great moral dilemma of our times. And, you know, they talk about Winston Churchill. They'll bring people like Winston Churchill out to say, you're either with Ukraine or you're evil, basically. And then, you know, turn over the next page in this fairy tale, and the Liberals are in Beijing doing deals with China, the principal funder of Russia, without whom they couldn't hope to fight this war against Ukraine. Just morally, again, you know, we have to judge these people on their morals, I think. I know there's not a lot there, but this is atrocious. This is disgusting behavior.
This next one I put back in here because if you look at the polls, the Liberals lead, a commanding lead to get reelected. They've done nothing. You look at the economy, look at all the data. The economy is absolutely horrible. Like, it's on life support. And transparency and accountability basically don't exist here in Canada. We're doing a deal with the Chinese now. We just saw what the Chinese are doing. And listen to this. This is the guy in charge of the most important industry in our future. Listen to him here.
Mr. Speaker, the contrast couldn't be more clear. We like to build, they like to block. We're building our auto sector with the new auto strategy. They're blocking. We're building affordable housing. They are blocking. We are investing in defense. They are blocking. We're making life more affordable for families with the GST tax credit. They are blocking. We like to build. They like to block. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Infantile.
Absolutely embarrassing. This is Canadian politics, and none of that is true. If we're gonna add to our thing misinformation. I don't know if we have our liar. You want to put up misinformation, disinformation. 9 homes they've built since the Liberals have won this new government. 9 homes. They released that in committee. 9 homes. They said they were going to build faster than ever before. They're supposed to build 250,000 additional homes, 500,000 a year. So that's about 2.5 million in 5 years they're supposed to build. The PBO's office said that they're going to actually end up building 26,000 homes, which, you know, if you divide that over 5 years, you know, that's about 4,000 homes a year. They built 9 in the first year. So they're really going to have to pick up the thunder. Like, I mean, how's that ramp? 9 homes. And the GST crumbs, thank you for that. GST crumbs impoverish a nation, have record food bank lineups. Don't take any credit for that. The economy, money leaving Canada. Certainty is what's missing in Canada. Certainty is what's missing in Canada. And I'm sure we're not going to get it from the Chinese.
No.
Here's Melanie Joly one more time on the... let's go, because this is they're hinging everything on this. I don't understand how they could win Ontario with what's going on in the auto sector, but here, let's listen here.
Have lobbied Congress, they've lobbied the White House for significant relief from California's emission standards, for instance. We know how President Donald Trump feels about this. If the overall goal is to keep manufacturing in Canada, why impose more stringent standards that are not synonymous or may not harmonize with what's going on in the U.S.? How does that achieve that?
Well, if you look at the production in Canada of cars, at this point this year, 77% of all the cars produced in the country are done by Honda and Toyota. And the Japanese automakers have been the ones that are actually invested very much in the country. Even since the trade war started, they've increased their production, imagine that. And in 40 years, they haven't done one major layoffs. And we think that they will be able to also adapt to these GHG emission standards. They're employing thousands of workers in Woodstock, in Cambridge, and Alliston. And we want to make sure that we support them. Meanwhile, of course, we will invest in those who invest in us. If the D3 are reducing their footprint in Canada, we're taking stock of that.
What does this mean then, though, for those workers who are already, dealing with idled plants in Ingersoll, in, Brampton? GM in Oshawa has just cut a third shift. What does it mean for them if the big three now balk at the new regulations?
So at the core of this strategy is really to attract new automakers to Canada. In the 80s, when the D3 were cutting jobs and closing plants across the country, what did the government at the time did? It was Brian Mulroney's Conservatives. They decided to go to Japanese automakers, and they made sure that Japanese automakers were investing in Canada. 40 years later, where are we? They're 77% of our production. So we think we have to invest in them. And at the same time, we're allowing new players to come in. And I must say also, Volkswagen just is constructing a battery plant right now as we speak in St. Thomas. They are hiring 3,000 employees very soon. So that's an example. Also, LG Stellantis is hiring right now in Windsor for a new battery plant as well. We think that there's going to be opportunities there. Is it enough? No, it's never enough.
That's good. It's never enough. That's enough from you, for sure.
What was that CBC?
No, I think it was the business program, BT.
What? I'm sorry, I really don't like. You might think I enjoy it, but I don't like sticking a knife in to my fellow reporters, fellow journalists out there. Why didn't you ask the obvious question? Where 77% of those cars, 77% of cars built in Canada were Japanese. Where were they sold? Where did they sell them? Not Canada. They sold them to the United States. That market is at risk. It's particularly at risk because you've got into bed with the Chinese, the other manufacturers that you're talking about now.
And why don't you ask the Japanese automakers what they think of the Chinese automakers? Why don't you ask them what they think of the Chinese automakers? They've destroyed industries wherever they've went. Maybe you should ask.
But the Americans, look, from Donald Trump's point of view, it's like he can kill Canada's auto industry at his pleasure. He can do it whenever he wants to, really. Because if he just says we're not going to take cars built in Canada anymore, every single Toyota, they might not have laid anybody off recently. They surely will then. If the Americans say we're not going to take Canadian manufactured autos anymore, they'll just move to Michigan. Of course they will. Of course they will. Is this complex? Is this a complicated idea? The Americans have us by the gonads on this particular subject, and she's speaking as though we can just bank on Toyota and Honda, even if we lose US access. They would be gone in seconds. They would disappear.
And Honda did postpone their EV plant here in Canada as well after getting also subsidies. And they did postpone it. But this is from Danielle Smith, an EV mandate reality check. They keep pushing these EVs. They keep pushing EVs. They keep pushing EVs. And now they're just figuring, just like the carbon tax. There's the carbon tax, we took it off, but we're adding on CCUS and we're adding on industrial and the clean fuel regulation. You know what I mean? It's just, they just put a different window dressing on it. It's the same thing they did with this EV mandate thing. They're just dressing it up differently. Same stuff. And here's the thing that's really troubling. So they got severance pay, those 1,200 auto workers from GM at CAMI. And so when you get severance, if you go to the Pierre Poilievre one there, if you get severance, you get a payout. And the government, obviously, if you get that lump sum, you're going to take a lot of it and you'll get it back come tax time. But the government just took it instead of saying, oh, this is going to be spread out. This should be spread out over your year. So they'll get a lot less of their money now and they'll get it back in tax time. Like they'll have to wait the rest of the year to get it back. And Pierre Poilievre is asking them to get, for them to look at that and make sure that withholdings aren't held back on them. If anybody understands that in tax. So, because if you get a large, let's say if you get 20 grand all at once, you get taxed at the highest bracket. But if that's spread out over a year, obviously it would be taxed at a lower bracket. But the government takes the fat off the calf right away and then you'll get it back later. And he's asking them to have some sympathy for that and make that better. I don't know. You would think if they cared, they have your backs. That doesn't sound like having your back, right? They're taking money from you. That's yours that you get back. You'll get it back in like 6 months.
It's
Mark
just
Carney.
sly, isn't it? Slimy.
Mark Carney, meanwhile, practicing the art of the deal by playing hardball with a $40 billion submarine contract. That's according to the UK-based Japanese-owned paper, which includes an interview with Kelowna MP Stephen Fuhr, which won't even respond to an email from us. We've sent 7 emails to Stephen Fuhr, and his email must be broken because he hasn't responded
But
to
not when the FT asks for an interview, no.
Crazy.
But this is interesting. Let's talk about Stephen Fuhr. His quote right at the end there of what I wrote there in 5 things, where he says, the decision on which manufacturer we choose, the German or the South Korean, will come down to the one that presents the best economic opportunity. So that's something that we've heard a lot of people complain about, particularly military people. They've been saying it shouldn't be about that. It shouldn't be about who can provide the most jobs and things and the most like perks. It should be about who builds the best submarine. Obviously, I mean, like who builds the best submarine, who can get it here in the best time so that we can protect ourselves. Like that's what you buy military equipment for, isn't it? Not like who's going to give us the most jobs. A lot of people have been complaining about that, and there's old Fuhr just completely confirming their worst fears, that this is just a jobs program. It's not about procurement. It's about distributing pork to the people.
Yeah. Consultants. 1 second here. There you go. Spending on Canadian consultants in USA under then Foreign Minister Melanie Joly jumped 13% to more than $130 million, according to the new audit. Federal agencies still hired American consultants to promote Canadian interests. Remember Melanie Joly saying during the election or just after Trump won that other countries are coming to her because she knows how to deal with the Americans. Well, I guess she hands out cash to them. That's how you deal with it. You hand out $130 million. That's how you deal with them. Mission expenditures steadily increased from $117 million in 2023 to $132 in 2025, an increase of $15 million. The increase was unexplained. The Consulate and Trade Office had a total of 486 employees, 259 residences leased at taxpayers' expense, 46 leased offices, 33 Crown-owned offices, and a fleet of 42 vehicles. And what have they got done so far in the U.S. trade deal for all that?
They've managed to get us a much worse trading arrangement with our largest trading partner.
Good value, eh? Good value?
Sounds like it.
Great
Sounds good,
value.
Yeah. At least that's money that's going to come back into Canada, right?
Yeah. And you want to waste money? Here's one of the biggest wastes of money yet. We opened a consulate in Greenland. Let's listen to this. We're going to get it here in a second here.
Planning to open this consulate, and we're so pleased to be able to stand in solidarity with the people of Greenland to show them that we are partners, that we prefer partnership over pressure, and that we will be here in the long term for cooperation and coordination with them on many issues, people-to-people ties, the strategic presence in the Arctic, and ensuring that we're working together for the preservation and protection of the Arctic.
That's good. They actually flew there. They flew there, an entourage. I don't know how much that entourage cost. There's a total of like 56,000 people in Greenland, and we opened a consulate there. For what?
What do you think the catering cost? Probably $70,000 if Mark Carney's bill is anything to go by.
And she's talking like she just saved democracy there. literally just save democracy.
She also talked as though it is of any consequence whatsoever that Canada is ready to stand with Greenland or whatever pabulum she came out with there. She's talking as if that matters. If the Americans wanted to annex Greenland and they did it in the next 10 minutes, they could probably do it in about 20 minutes. The people in that consulate would just have to watch and shake the hands of the general that comes and claims Greenland. There is nothing Canada can do because we don't have a military. Our economy's 10 times smaller than America's. We depend on the United States for everything, defense as well as income. It's just, I mean, what I'm finding quite interesting is how much these cheeky chappies and chapettes like Anita Anand, how much they actually get away with. Because this is obviously just an attempt to slap Trump. And so it looks like, anyway, she's kind of got away with it. I'm surprised that the Americans aren't a little bit more hostile to these kind of gimmicks. Because, you know, or maybe they are behind the scenes. But either way, does this add up to an increased chance of a good deal with the United States or a decreased chance?
I can tell you
I'll let you all decide that for yourselves.
I'll tell you one thing. Marco Rubio has probably done more in one morning, than Anita Anand has done in the 10 months that she's been in this new government as foreign affairs minister. This is only enrages, I would think, that the Americans, or makes them laugh. Either one, it's another waste of Canadian taxpayer dollars that we don't have to waste. We don't have money to waste. Imagine that if you're a Canadian lining up in a food bank right now for money for food banks, or you're the one that has to take that $200 GST credit here, that we can go and waste this kind of money instead of giving it back into the Canadian economy, that we can go ahead and waste this money. They're taking food off your table so that she can go there and virtue signal, and the CBC gleefully, instead of asking the question, do you not think this is a waste of money when Canadians are struggling? Do you not think this is a waste of money when we could be doing something that would drive jobs here in Canada? Do you not think this is an absolute waste of money and also sticking the stick in the eye of our largest trading partner? None of those questions are asked.
Yeah. And also, there's another more cynical look that you could, perspective you could have on this, which is that this is kind of all part of the Liberals' election planning, really, isn't it? This is just, look how we poked Trump in the eye. Look what we did. Now vote for us. Vote for us, you fools.
We got lots to get through, so we're going to pick it up again. We're over 800 we hit today, so absolutely amazing. Get this out to as many people as you can. Make it so that they can't ignore this, and so they have to come on. Stephen Fuhr won't even answer our emails, and I know him personally. Imagine that. He had time for other people. Drugs for everybody. Listen to this. Drugs for everybody. Listen to this. Doesn't matter how old you are either. Drugs. You can't get cigarettes. You can't buy. You got to be a certain age to get a driver's license. Get cannabis to get into a bar. But drugs, hey, get in line.
The supervised site without ID, are they allowed to come into the site?
The sites, if someone comes to the site and they're looking for help and support, and they're looking for a place to be supported when they're using a substance, there's not a requirement for ID. If there's a policy and procedure by an individual site, I would not be aware of it, but there's nothing set in federal legislation.
So we just heard that the minister's approving sites beside daycares, play schools, within steps of these sites. So someone can walk out of a school below age, obviously there's no age restriction, and go in and say, I need to have a fix here. So they're going to be in and supervised. There's no federal regulations on that.
So organizations determine the location of a supervised consumption site, and then they send in an exemption
What about
request.
the federal government on age?
And then the federal government, they come to the federal government to seek an exemption from the act. And that act allows an individual to be in that site to be supervised while using a substance to prevent an overdose.
I was going to play this other clip too, where, you know, like they toured it, the federal MP toured the place, and she went with a police escort, and they asked her why she had a police escort, and you know, if she felt unsafe. It's just ridiculous. So you need ID to buy cigarettes, you need ID to buy cannabis, you need to enter a bar. But hey, if you want to go shoot up, come on in. 15, 14? Ah.
But also, what kind of a society puts a passive-aggressive HR lady in charge of something that important, who refuses to answer questions and just kind of is she's imagining stabbing you in her mind as she looks at you with the evil stare and tries to, avoid your question or avoid giving an answer in the most circumlocutory fashion possible. What are these people doing in positions of authority? And since they are in positions of authority, what did you think? What did you think the policy was going to look like?
And then if you're not angry enough at this, you got to remember that the federal employees, this is, I think it's around $136,000 on average, the salary right now for a federal employee. But by 2030, that budget is $76 billion. It'll be an average of $172,000 per employee. They're angry, disgusted, and feel disrespected that they have to go to work now. Get it 4 days of the week. Listen to this. This is from a union representative.
Times for our members, for the Canadian public. I'm hearing stories of folks that, I've heard stories just recently yesterday of members crying, and it's really a dark time. Our members, the reason they work for the federal government is they love the jobs they do. Mm-hmm. They want to serve Canadians, and now it's very, very dire times, and, they're wondering now, are they going to be able to provide for their loved ones?
This federal government was elected on a promise to essentially cap the public service, and they said that they wanted to find efficiencies to keep the public service in line and working a little more efficiently. Do you not see this as them following through on that promise?
No, I don't see that, them following through on that promise. If they were really looking for efficiencies, making public servants more productive, they'd be talking to us. We've been asking since August when it was first announced, what's this going to look like? And we've never got a real response. I'd love to have a discussion about efficiencies. You want to find savings? Let's talk about outside contractors. The government of Canada spends 26% more to have a contractor than an employee. And I hear even this week of contractors.
Listen to that reporter there, or the whatever anchor, or whatever he is. Isn't the question, he's defending the Liberals. Oh, the Liberals promised this. Shouldn't the question be, the taxpayer pays these salaries, and you guys make almost twice to 3 times as much as the average Canadian. They're standing in line at food banks, and you're whining and sniveling about having to go to work 4 days a week. What do you say to the Canadian taxpayer? Because the Canadian taxpayer not only pays his salary plus all the employees that work with under him, under his union, pays that journalist sitting there salary as well. And who do they answer to? They answer to the Liberals, right? That CTV reporter asked the question for defending the Liberals, not defending Canadian taxpayers. That's what we will work for you, the Canadian, average Canadian, not for the Liberals, not for the Conservatives, not for the NDP, and surely not for Elizabeth May, because I don't think, Elizabeth needs help. But the question is what blows my mind. It's like the average salary, again, by 2030, this is the federal employee cost to Canadians will be $76 billion by 2030. $76 billion. While Canadians stand in record numbers in food bank lineups, can't afford groceries, can't afford their rent. And CTV, the only question they could ask is on how to defend the Liberals. Shameful, isn't it? I'd like to get that CTV. We should ask him if he wants to come on here and ask why that question didn't pop into his mind. While they say that the employees were crying, feeling disrespected and disgusted that they were forced to go to work, again, forced to go to work that many days of the week. Well, the rest of you are forced to go to work. Some of you, 2 jobs now. Some of you are working 7 days a week. I work 7 days a week. But it's unbelievable that the CTV guy sitting there couldn't ask a question from that perspective.
You said 2 jobs as well. 2 jobs and half the salary overall when it's all added up. You know, they're very well paid.
So they got the
So
best
I would
benefits,
say-
they got the best everything, give bonuses, everything, right? They got the best of everything.
Yeah, but I would say, in their defense, I'm gonna defend them. I'm gonna put my Superman outfit on and defend them. Some of them are talking about how they're going to an office in wherever it is, Ottawa or something. I mean, it could be anywhere in Canada. They're going into an office which is mostly empty, and then they're sitting down at a computer, getting plugged in, and then having a meeting on Teams, like a video platform, with people in like Winnipeg and stuff like that, and Vancouver and all over the country, and they're just sitting there. You know, like there's no point in them being in the office, but they're just sat there doing these like video meetings, and that's all you really do in the public service is just have endless meetings for no reason. So you have to kind of, in a sense, it's like these people are victims of a completely dysfunctional system, and I think they're right to resent that. It's like, why the hell should I be here? I don't even know anybody. I don't speak to anybody in this building. I just have to drive like an hour, sit here on my own, so I can go on Teams and speak to somebody in Winnipeg. But then the question then is, I don't think that's so much, all right, everybody work from home is the answer to that. But I think it's like, what kind of efficiencies are in place here? Like, how messed up is this system?
I like how they come down to, like, you think we waste money, you should see the consultants, which is both of them. Go, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, unbelievable. And absolutely unbelievable. And one thing the left doesn't like is accountability. And X, when Elon Musk bought X, it changed the world. It actually changed the world. And he defended freedom of speech. And of course, the people on the left don't like it. And a lot of the people leaving X is because when they post on X, they get beat up, including this liberal Premier of New Brunswick. Her government is now abandoning X. And they're going to go to blue sky. I don't, you know what? In the interest of time, we're not even government. Yeah, we're not even going to play it because it's just her saying how it's just like this place of unsafe and all this stuff and yada yada yada. Because they don't want to hear it. And then guess who else is leaving X because of? You should go read some of the responses on his posts. None other than the king of sausage rolls, David Cochrane, the absolute sausage roll king, David Cochrane, is leaving X. He quits X. Will Elon Musk hold a party for him? He quits, because go read some of the comments underneath his X unless he's pulled it down. Because, I mean, David Cochrane, he makes Rosie Barton look like a journalist.
It's sad because it used to be the other way around.
It was,
He used to be a bit sharper, didn't he? I don't know what happened to him. What happened?
I believe he might be the third one in the three amigos that goes to Doug Ford's cabin. And that's just my speculation.
He's the one lighting the cigars.
And then handing out. And Carney and Ford just throw him a sausage roll every couple of minutes, and he's in the corner. They're just scurrying around, scarfing down sausage rolls. I almost read somebody's comment there by accident. Oh my!
But I would just to add, most people probably haven't been on Blue Sky. Nobody's been on Blue Sky, really, have they? It's a completely obscure fringe website.
Even Fear's on there.
I have. What's that?
Stephen Fear's on there. He's not on X.
Right, Steve. Maybe that's our way to get in touch with him. But I have been on it. You know, I've been on it quite a bit to explore and see what it's like. And it's unhinged. If you think websites like Reddit are insane, check out Blue Sky. It's absolutely nuts. Like it's almost like a
Parensville.
These people have been cordoned off for our safety and theirs. They are absolutely mad. And there's loads, considering X is always attacked for this reason, there's loads of incitement to murder and assassination and things like that. It can be very violent, very sort of sinister place, as well as a freak show. But I just find it amazing that they're like, oh, I can't stand X. I'm going to go to this place. And it's just like, people might see that and say, oh, okay, I get it. But they've never actually been on Blue Sky. Like, go on, just have a look. Have a look at the sort of things that people talk about.
Well, David Cochrane might be the king of Blue Sky. And Elizabeth May might be his queen. the king and queen. And I can just imagine, though, David Cockroach in the corner, David Cochran, sorry, Cochran in the corner there, scurrying around with Ford and Carney are flipping sausage rolls at him, right, giving him his next script for the show. It's changing in America, though. The Washington Post, CEO and publisher of the Washington Post, Will Lewis, has stepped down, and after they laid off a third of their staff.
And this is partly like people are loving this because of, as we said the other day, because Jeff Bezos said,
yeah, enough of that.
You know, enough of the anti-Trump stuff. Like just report straight, which was deemed to be, you know, a pro-Trump thing to have done. But there's a lot of discussion going on as people are saying, oh, you know, Washington Post is so out of kilter with, you know, the Times. You know, we should be. The Times demand that we be hostile to Trump, basically. But then a lot of people are coming in saying, were they in sync with the Times when they hired a staff of 30 reporters and editors just to report on climate change? That was not so long ago when they did that. Was that in tune with the Times? Like this thing that we see in polls, we see in elections, people aren't interested in that subject. They don't really want to talk about it. They don't want to hear about it. But the Washington Post thought that they would hire dozens of staff members to cover just that. You know, like it's one-way traffic, isn't it? It's just yet another like culture war, isn't it? It's another front in the political war against Trump or for Trump.
Just think if you could go in there, a person like myself, an accountant, could go in there and just clean up some of the mess here in the federal government. A digital ID system will cost $6.64 billion. Federal managers promised to Commons publicly that a 10-year program to digitize claims for unemployment insurance and other benefits, the largest IT transformation ever undertaken by the government. $6.64 billion. That's, that's their initial budget. The program originally budgeted $1.8 billion in 2017, increased to 2.2 in April 22, 6.6 in November of 24. And now it won't go higher than $6.64 billion. Because, hey, now we couldn't get it then, this time we're going to get it right. Cabinet promised digital ID would be strictly voluntary. Access to federal service is not conditioned on a digital ID, nor is it implemented or mandated. We heard that somewhere. Was that? Oh, the UK, that's right. And they pushed back hard on it.
Yep. And the guy who pushed very hard on it is any minute now about to be kicked out as prime minister, losing his job. So,
and if you're a betting person, you can go on Polymarkets and you can bet on Keir Starmer leaving before February 28th. So you can put some money down on Keir, get in the door to hit him in the ass on the way out. You want to waste some more money? Taxpayers should not expect any repayment of billions in Canada Post loans over several years, says management. in years. Another $2 billion. It gets us to break even by 2030. Cabinet in 2025 awarded another $1 billion line of credit to cover ongoing losses. A second loan, about another $1 billion, was needed by Canada Post to pay all its operating and income charges. $2 billion bucks, and in loans, right?
Yeah, they're not loans. They're grants, and they should be. Come on, they should be spoken of like that. It's ridiculous to call that a loan.
Yeah. It's losing $10 million a day. Imagine if you ran a business that was losing $10 million a day.
While still, the staff still making these massive demands as well. That's the sort of thing that you could only do that with a government-funded organisation, couldn't you? It's another thing about our beloved public sector.
But they've been in government now. What is it since March? What, March 14th, is it? What was the election date? March?
That's when he came into power, yeah. That's when, because there wasn't an election initially, was there? He was sworn in.
Well, let's just say it's banging on the door of a year right now. And we still have this problem. And this is a repeat offender in Vancouver Island, now been arrested and released on bail 3 times in 5 weeks. 3 times, 5 weeks. Charged with multiple counts of assault with a weapon, engaged in a 5-hour standoff with the RCMP. And the judge, here you go. See ya next time. See ya. Have fun out there.
That is that's shocking. And these I'm gonna have to read this. I'm gonna save this to read because that is particularly weird.
What do you think the cops think? They're just like, they call it that, there's a name for it now. They're just like, why waste my time? Just whatever, right? Yeah, whatever.
Not just their time. We've said this before. Potentially they're wasting their lives. They're wasting their health. If they're on the wrong end of an encounter with one of these people, they could die, you know, or they could end up being in a position where they can't walk or something like that. Like, what the hell would you risk your body, life and limb for this stupid system? Why would you do that?
Ask yourself this. Where have the liberals spent more time and energy? On the online streaming and online hate, or actual physical crime against people? Where have they spent most of their energy? Watch the actions, not the talk. Where have they spent most of their energy? Is that the government you want back? Where they spend most of their energy silencing you? And maybe this show would be banned like Jimmy Lai at some point, because, you know, we're sharing information they surely don't want to share because it doesn't make it on CBC. Like this one here, another waste of money. We're just going to keep doing this one until she's gone. Dr. Noma Meaner, almost $400,000 a year to look out the window. And she can't even see the UFOs anymore for all the drones that are in the sky. You can't even make it up. She had 21 employees working for her too. But if anybody's going to see aliens out there, it's Elon Musk. And they're actually they're delaying their Mars to focus on a moon landing. They're going to put AI plants in some of these craters, these dark craters that have temperatures at -200, like Shackleton crater. That's the future. That's the future, man. And this is a reminder. We interviewed John Carpe recently. Still no accountability for the Freedom Convoy decision by the appeal court. Nothing. Zero. Nada. Squat. And then just to give you a reminder of what happened there, here's a little clip of it. We'll play a small clip of what happened there. Well, we don't want any music though. Kill the sound, yeah.
John Lennon?
Yeah. And these are the same people in Canada and CBC screaming about ICE. What's this?
We haven't even seen the cavalry yet. Oh, there they are.
No, well, that's not even them. They were in the black when they came and did it. That was just the threat there. The where's all the screaming about that, CBC? You got like an ICE story every like 3-4 ICE stories a day. Not one story on that when they trampled on the invoking of the Emergencies Act here in Canada is one of the dark spots for Canadian history. It abused our Charter of Rights and Freedoms for people that are basically committing noise violations and parking violations.
Yeah, who wanted to demonstrate against the government that wouldn't listen to them.
They were actually Canadian citizens, and yet you run a story on ICE almost every day.
And before it was ICE, it was, you know, how many times has it been police behaving badly in the United States? That's always a headline story in Canada, isn't it? And it just goes on and on and on and on and on. The most famous one being George Floyd, but Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, like, I know all these people's names because it's just wall-to-wall coverage. Whereas when something like this happens in Canada, it's just like... But I mean, maybe the ICE is quite a good analogy, actually, because we're talking about arrests usually, aren't we? I mean, there has been the instance that like 2 people have died, but if you just look at the arrests, it's kind of like for like in some ways, and yet there's just no discussion. ICE are evil. The cavalry coming in to crush the protesters in Ottawa are just virtuous. The honking will stop.
And then just to remind you again, the Vax files, until people scream their heads off, will be closed for 15 years. People are actually injured on the vaccine, taking the vaccine, and they're going to seal those records for 15 years. No reason given, CBC not asking questions, CTV not asking questions. They're going to seal those records for 15 years. That's the next slide there, or it's not even a slide actually. But yeah, and here's transparency and accountability. The Liberals Trudeau ran on that when he was running against Harper. He ran on transparency and accountability. But now they're saying Parliament should stop allowing cameras in question periods. And that's a spokesman from the government House Leader. Canada Commons was the first to televise proceedings 49 years ago. Maybe we should take away the television cameras during question period. That's from Liberal MP Kevin Lamoureux. He also suggested that opposition MPs be required to submit written questions in advance. Why have Parliament? You're going to have to write your question out. What is the purpose of Parliament then? If they don't want anybody to see what's going on, and then the MPs have to write their questions in advance. They don't even want accountability with the opposition. They seal records. And he said, in terms of
the government House Leader as well, it's Steve McKinnon, isn't it? That man of the people that everybody loves.
And he said, in terms of cameras, I think we have to realize most of the country sees us through these videos. Well, hey, maybe answer the questions to Canadians, and then you might be seen in a better light. That would be just a, just a thing that would come to mind. No?
It's sometimes, Blackhawks, they do have the power to shock, don't they? Even after all these years.
Listen, if they get a majority, it's going to be even less transparency. Because in committee now, right now, they just hate committee. Is because they can't just do what they did with Jagmeet there and just say, closed, that's it. Yeah. No records. Where's the Gibbo records? They can't do it right now because NDP is not there to save them because they're not an official party. And so they have to produce documents for the Bloc and the Conservatives. And so that's why they want a majority.
And just, not just that, but bloody everything. Just think about, the ways in which they're being restrained. All of that would go away. And some people perhaps would quite like that. But you've got to consider that when it comes to the difference between a majority and a minority.
And it sounds like they're bringing back the temporary foreign worker program because they say unemployment dropped in some areas below 6%. So just because 95,000 people gave up looking for a job.
I mean, imagine building policy based on one of the most controversial statistics in any society, which is the unemployment rate. Something that people will fight to the death over and say that the rate that we get here is just completely fabricated nonsense. That is a contention made by very serious economists. Can you imagine building policy around that statistic?
And here's CTV carrying the water for the Liberals. Petition calls for federal party leaders to get top security clearance. And this is Bruce Fanjoy here started this petition on Poilievre. It's just another PR thing to smear Poilievre as we're heading into an election, I think. And they just bring this story. They just keep recycling it. And even though former leader of the NDP there said that he wouldn't do it as well. And it's just ridiculous. But they continue to get life out of this story, and the media more than willing to carry the water. And the headline means everything. Most people don't even read past the headline. There you go. That's what you get. Petition calls for federal party leaders to get top security clearance.
Very, very deceptive. But I mean, that's par for the course, isn't it, when it comes to CTV? Especially on Twitter. Like I guess it's not just Twitter. It's more to do with their headlines, isn't it? Their headlines tend to be just so deceptive, very, very cheeky, and they get there are a lot of pile-ins, aren't there? Especially on Twitter, in the comments.
We're going to skip past a couple stories, but I do want to touch a little bit on the Super Bowl. First time ever, SpaceX or any one of Elon Musk's companies actually ran an ad in the Super Bowl here, and this is what and the reason I picked this out is because America's focusing on a vision of tomorrow. Canada's trying to figure out whether they should build a pipeline and how to destroy its own industries. And here's one here, just this SpaceX ad here. We'll run it without sound, I think, right? Because I'm not sure if it has sound or not on it. Let's play this clip here. You can play the sound there. Let's see.
Thinking of the incredible breakthrough, the communication satellite. These things will make possible a world in which we can be in instant contact with each other wherever we may be. When that time comes, the whole world will have shrunk to a point.
That's good. There you go. Starlink is a thing that Flip-Flop Ford has said he won't do. He killed that deal. I use Starlink. I've been using it for a couple of years now. Starlink is everywhere, man. I actually have a dish mounted on my car. It actually works to 160 kilometers an hour. And they're mounting it on planes. I think WestJet has it now. A bunch of airlines have it on their things, other than Ryanair. Is it? We covered that.
Elon Musk didn't know anything about aerodynamics. That's why, according to the CEO.
Crazy, eh? I watched the Super Bowl. There were some interesting ads for sure. I mean, a lot of people watch the Super Bowl just for the ads. Sometimes the ads are more interesting than the Super Bowl itself.
And some agitprop, wasn't that, I believe, from the some kind of rabbit creature?
I didn't get it. I didn't get it yet. A singer on. I mean, apparently I talked to somebody, our producer here, and she liked it. It was music in a different language, and then I'm just thinking, okay. I guess you go to opera and it's a different language. I can never understand. I didn't like that either. I was at an opera once, and I think Phantom of the Opera, and I was doing this, and everybody's all fancy, and my wife said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm changing the channel. You can't understand this one." She wasn't.
Usually at operas, they give you some kind of, they give it like a précis. They give you a summary kind of thing of what it's about.
Well, Japan, she called a snap election and she won a majority, like a super majority. She went to town on that. She just lit that thing up. So, like, look at that. Look at those numbers. We won't play the clip just in the interest of time. But she got a huge majority, and she had a minority government prior to this. But she's taking a hardline stance, and her and Trump are in lockstep right now. We'll see where that goes. But definitely, again, Japan, someone's saying that they already voiced their displeasure with Chinese. They're not going to like it. I guarantee you the Japanese automakers are not going to like Chinese automakers coming to Canada. They are not going to like it. 100% they're not going to like it. That's where Melanie Jolie, I mean, they can't think past, I don't know. I just don't know. And then nobody's asking the questions on the obvious conflicts of interest. Obvious.
I'd also say
of interest.
Related to Sanae Takeichi. She has shown Mark Carney. I mean, Mark Carney, if he's followed this at all, if the Liberal strategists have followed this at all, I think it will encourage them even more to call an election. Because one of the main reasons that she won is because she antagonized the Chinese, who are like the great mortal enemy of the Japanese, and they have this, terrible mutual hostility. So if the Liberals are watching that, they'll say, "Yep, we've got one of them. We've got a China. It's called America." So they're, all they've got to do, just antagonize Big Don, and your majority is sealed. And I'm just saying that. I'm not saying that with no value judgment attached to it, but I'm just saying it because it's true. But I feel like Canadians at large, they should have a conversation with themselves about why that's true. Why is it the case that Donald Trump pretty much single-handedly decides who you vote for? Why would you allow Donald Trump to decide your vote in a Canadian election?
Talking about elections, we're going to skip a couple of stories here because it's just in the interest of time. I was going to put on the Mark Cuban thing where he's like, he's supporting Trump now. He's an actually anti-Trump guy. He's supporting Trump based on the drug prices plummeting because of what Trump's done. But this, you got to watch this. This is Kamala Harris. She could have been the leader of the free world. And this is her thoughts on no ID for elections.
Is agreeing to voter ID one of those compromises that you'd support? I don't think that we should underestimate what that could mean. Because in some people's mind, that means, well, you're going to have to Xerox or
photocopy your ID to send it in to prove you are who you are. Well, there are a whole lot of people, especially people who live in rural communities, who don't. There's no Kinko's, there's no Office Max near them. People have to understand that when we're talking about voter ID laws, be clear about who you have in mind and what would be required of them to prove who they are. Of course, people have to prove who they are, but not in a way that makes it almost impossible for them to prove who they are. Is agreeing.
Hey, whoa. She makes Melanie Jolie look sharp. Holy cow. Hey?
She is such a stupid person, isn't she? She's genuinely stupid. Like, she is. What's her IQ for real? I'm not much of an IQ obsessive, but I'm interested now because I'm interested in the extremes. I'm interested in like Einstein's IQ, and I'm interested in whatever her IQ is. She is genuinely stupid. It's not even like, that's not like an edgy take. She is a genuinely stupid person.
This is what the Democratic Party put forward. And somebody said, literally dodged a bullet. Literally, by like a turn of a head, dodged a bullet. You gotta wonder why.
Was she saying that? What the hell was she saying? Yeah, we do need ID, but we don't. And think about the kind of people I'm talking about when I say ID. What are you talking about, you fool? Dear God.
But literally, it's sounding like some of the stuff that he's been saying is true. Like, why do we want mail-in ballots? And there's a post out there that shows that the amount of mail-in ballots is in like 49 million mail-in ballots, which is supposed to be just for initially for military and people that are sick. How did that many military get into the military and get sick? How did that happen? I mean, they're starting to expose a lot of fraud. Pretty soon there's going to be like, if this went on, there might be like 1 billion people voted in the American election. The population, 350 million. Because Kamala Harris, I don't know, man. Like, it's wild. And even John Fetterman has now said that, the Democrats are fuming at him because he said, you should have ID. You literally have to have ID for everything. And in Canada, you need your ID. When you go to vote, you got to show your ID. Yet here in Canada, the CBC will run stories on why the Americans shouldn't be demanding ID. Yet we do it here. Literally, there was a No Kings rally in Canada for an anti-Trump rally. No Kings rally. We actually have a king. Like, some of these things you can't make up. CBC did the No Kings. Not one of the reporters went on there and said, so you realize we have a king here. You know that? Right? Like,
marvelous, isn't it? But yeah, not only do you need ID but to vote here, but like in my experience of voting, it's that's very serious. Like, if you don't have the right ID, if you don't present it forthwith, you'll be sort of rough-handed. It's like, it's a big deal, and as it should be, because otherwise your elections might not be legit, or at least that question would arise. And it's a bit like when it comes to the justice system. They always say justice must be seen to be done. That's why there's a certain amount of engagement with the public, with the court system, but also with elections. Fairness must be seen to be present, to be like the main ingredient of an election. And quite obviously, if you don't ask for ID in a country like the United States, which has tens of millions of illegal immigrants living there, that we know of, that are known to be there, and then God knows how many who they don't even know are there. Yeah, I mean, that obviously degrades the reputation of America's electoral system. Why wouldn't it? Like, but they all just play dumb, don't they? I mean, obviously in the case of Kamala Harris, she's not playing dumb, she just is dumb. But the actual smart ones play dumb about this, and they start saying things like, lots of people don't have IDs. What are you talking about, man? In a country like America, not having a driving license, everybody's got a driving license in America. Everybody's got some kind of ID in America. What a joke.
Please like, share, subscribe, get this out to a wider audience. The more that we can share real truth out there, the better that Canadians are informed of what's going on, as opposed to drinking from the fire hose of narrative from the government corrupted and crippled media. Share this far and wide. Make it so big that they can't ignore it anymore. We're going to have our, I guess the website didn't launch yet. It might be up later today. I just don't want to give out the address until it's ready. I don't think I got an email yet that says it's ready. Keir Starmer, here's your other friend, Piers Morgan, telling Keir, you're a good man, a decent man, but get out.
An Arsenal fan. Piers Morgan's always talking about being an Arsenal fan. Nobody cares, Piers. I wish he would shut up about that.
He's quite the pompous guy, the Piers Morgan, for sure. Piers, the pomp guy.
And Arsenal is his team. That is the pompous man's team.
Oh, there you go.
But also, what's he on about? He's like, for the good of the country, resign. I mean, for the good of the country, don't get him elected in the first place. What did you do back then, Piers? Not a lot. He just goes with the flow, Piers Morgan. That's his great trick. He just senses the way the wind is blowing and puts his sail up.
He'd be a big fan of flip-flop Ford for sure. And this other one, UK Executive Director of Communication resigned. I think you're going to start to see that. That's what happened to Boris. Didn't they just start resigning en masse and until Boris pulled the pin? So
yeah, the leader of the Scottish, because Britain is kind of like a sort of half-assed federal system, not quite, but sort of. And Scotland is one of the provinces, as it were. And the leader of the Scottish Labour Party has come out and said, on your bike, Keir. That's quite a big loss. But some people have actually come out, including the person that's most likely to replace them. She has come out and said, you know, I'm with Keir. So they're sort of battling. They're continuing the fight, but I'd say he's maybe bought himself a couple of days at most. But he's mincemeat.
I'm going to take a chance here, and I'm going to announce it here. The reallybigshow.ca, the website there, I believe it's ready. If it's not quite ready, it should be ready tomorrow. But you can actually go there and you can give us some feedback. The reallybigshow.ca. So we can put that in the comments. The reallybigshow.ca. Check it out and give us some feedback. But we're going to be sharing that a lot more as we go along here for sure. And we got a couple more funny stories here for you, I believe. We're going to pass on that one. We're going to pass on the Billie Eilish one. But we're going to play this one here from Ricky Gervais because it's always funny. Because we get this a lot. Me and Ian we thank everybody here that is very complimentary sometimes. And, you know, like sometimes they're critical. It's okay, critical. Some people are just mean, though, too, right? We get some really mean emails. I've heard there's places I shouldn't go. People are quite mean about. They don't like being threatened. Ian and I talk about climate change. Some people built their whole financial reputation on it and their financial model on climate change. So when Ian and I push back on it, obviously it makes some people very, very angry, right? Because and same thing with anti-vax and all that other stuff. And we push back on this freedom convoy. Here's Ricky Gervais making light of it. Ricky Gervais, obviously a controversial figure as well in comedy.
Annoying little twerp that doesn't even come from here. That fang-faced wimp, Gervais, should keep his big mouth to himself and stay unfunny in his own stupid country. Loser. Uncle Ricky?
Yeah?
What does all this mean?
It means I'm doing something right.
Oh, do you want to hear more?
Do I?
Ricky is a pig-nosed troll.
That's great.
There you go. So we get that a lot on this show about Ian should go home as well and say, you know, that's why I played that. I thought, you know, because he said, Ricky's not even from here and he should just go home. And they say that about Ian sometimes, that he should just go home. Just for the record, Ian is a Canadian citizen. Just for the record.
John A. MacDonald was also not from Canada. Do you want him to go home?
Well, some people probably would.
Yeah, a lot of people, they'd smash his statue.
Some people would rather. We try to bring you, this is independent, unapologetic, and we try to bring you news that you're not going to get on the mainstream for sure. And if you could like, share, subscribe, and get this out to as many people as possible, because the truth matters. We are an accredited news organization. So Ian used to work for the Daily Mail, and he worked for the UK government, and I'm a CPA. I've also been a mine site controller, worked in the sawmill industry, worked in the oil field, worked in as a dishwasher, a cook. I come from the blue collar area of it, and Ian is a Laurentian elite.
I used to work for a newspaper in Hampstead as well, but part of London, where Ricky Gervais lives, and I saw him, a big sweaty mess, jogging around Hampstead Heath a couple of times. So there's a little. I also saw, what's his name? Can't remember his name. Russell Brand. I also saw him walking some very expensive-looking dogs. So if you want to see these wild creatures that we discuss from day to day, go to Hampstead Heath.
And this one here, we're going to share a couple of funny ones. You don't have to stick around for a moment, but they are funny. This is a little bit of our funny part. This is how AI is going to deal with our future here. This is a piece that Elon shared on Claudebot, which is now Motbot or some Moltbot or something. Moltbook, yeah. Anyway, you got the right one there? You got the link? Let's do it.
You
Maybe.
gave your AI permission to overwrite code in the internal file system? Or are you going to tell me about this?
No. I thought that was the company policy these days.
Okay, well, your AI just failed epically.
That's unclear. It's possible that Son of Anton decided that the most efficient way to get rid of all the bugs was to get rid of all the software, which is technically and statistically correct. But artificial neural nets are sort of a black box, so we'll never know for sure.
Hey, Richard, did you order meat? Like a bunch of meat? Like 4,000 pounds of meat?
Interesting. I put Son of Anton on finding us cheap hamburgers for lunch. It looks like the reward function was a little underspecified.
Okay, from now on, Son of Anton is banned.
There you go. That's good. And then this last one here, Lululemon. I'm sure if you watch the opening ceremonies, and I'm a big fan of Lululemon, watch the opening ceremonies of Canada walking on, they were wearing something which nobody could figure out what it is. And why red and brown, I have no idea. Is it like a dying leaf or what's it representing? But he's good. This guy here is going to explain what this this leaf is here, or this thing that people were wearing. Let's listen into him.
Somebody needs to help me. What is this? What am I doing? Oh my God, I'm gonna scream. I'm gonna do a story time on something I just bought. It is this item right here. I saw this when they released Team Canada's looks for the Olympics, and I was like in love with it, but it makes no goddamn sense. It is one piece, it is like a sleeping bag, and it's got the Canada print on it. And it clips here with a little toggle. This is what it looks like. In every photo I saw, I thought it's a poncho. Maybe we like this. Does it have pockets? Yes. It has a pocket. It has one pocket. There's no pocket on this side. Strolling down the street. Where's the pocket? It gets crazier. They have cinching toggles. What the hell is this? Then I'm thinking maybe it's a hood? But there's no back. Is this a scarf?
That's good. What are you doing, Lululemon? Like, what are you literally doing? And who said, let's do that? Did Kamala Harris design that? Like, what is going on here?
I've gone onto their website to see if I can find the price, because that's the one thing that he didn't mention.
He did at the end. Maybe it's $200 or something like that.
$200.
I'm going to say it's $200 too much. Save your money.
It's like literally, if they were giving them out to promote the Olympics, I wouldn't hold on to it. I wouldn't keep it. So I wouldn't take it for free.
The one thing that I looked at and I just thought it makes people look larger. And I just don't think a lot of females want to look larger, like, because it flares out so wide. Like, it's wild. Anyway.
Maybe they're looking for that baggy look, and that emphasizes their smallness, doesn't it, in the fashion world?
Maybe. I have no idea. I mean, I'm going to say I'm saving my $200. And brown and red, I don't know. Don't know.
They're not nice. They don't go well together. They're not nice colors in any context, are they?
So again, record-breaking show for live. Thank you very much. What's that? 11,000 on all the platforms. 11,000 live. So that's great. Help us get this out to more people. Share this, like, subscribe, and thank you to all the new members too. So you can now become a member. Ian and I are going to do a video, I think today or tomorrow. It's probably going to be a 2 or 3 minute video explaining how membership works and what we're going to add into it. The website is now launched. We put that link in there. You can put back that link in one more time, thereallybigshow.ca, if you want to support us and see that. And share this link out to as many people as possible. We should be streaming on Rumble tomorrow. Like, again, whatever we get, we're piling it back into the show. And there you go. There's our website there. And we'll keep adding little features at a time. It takes a lot to put this show together. And we do thank everybody that shares the clips. And we do also take this big show, which is a long show for sure. And thank everybody some people stick around for the whole thing. Great. We also clip it up now into like 10 or so segments, and then we clip those into even smaller segments and put that on our TikTok and X and that. So again, if we could share this far and wide, I believe we could stack up. Look at the Canadian Spider-Man, put up all the things. So you get these emojis. We're going to add more emojis as well. And thank you again for being part of the Really Big Show. And it is a community. And we let you communicate here. And we'd love to communicate with you. Again, thank you.
James Fawcett, he likes to communicate with me to tell me to have a shave all the time.
There you go. See, James is helping.
I'm not going to do it, James.
Hey, we're pretty dapper from when we started from ball caps and t-shirts, so we're getting there.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get more interviews too. Our producer reaches out all the time to get more, and we're going to start calling out the people that won't do an interview as well. Thank you for watching Now Media.